Alright, so whenever you're dividing polynomials and you're dividing like one term over one term, that's really monomials is what they are because it's only one term. What you do is you just divide the numbers and then you divide the x's or the y's or whatever the variables are. When you divide the x's and the y's, basically you're subtracting. You're trying to figure out how many's left whenever I divide it out. Now, with the numbers, if you don't divide evenly, for example, on number 1, 18 and 27, you can't divide evenly, you could just reduce it, figure out what number that it will go into that you can reduce it by. Also, on Desmos, you can reduce it on Desmos, so let me show you that real quick. If I want to put 18 over 27 in Desmos, it does give me a decimal, but if I click that little fraction button to the side, it'll give me my fraction. So that's one way that you can do that. In your calculator, if you put 18 over 27 in the calculator, and then go to Math, and number 1, which is fraction, press Enter and Enter, that will also reduce it for you. Now, if you don't want to reduce it, you could, because you can just figure it out yourself, that's fine too. But that's the calculator ways. So you can use calculator, math, fraction, or you can use Desmos and just put it in. Okay? Now, that doesn't work for the powers, it only works for the numbers. So when I divide the 18 and 27, I do get 2 over 3. Now let's look at the x's. So I've got 6 x's on top and 4 on the bottom. And when I think of dividing, I think of like subtracting off whatever I can. So if I subtract off the number I can subtract off 4 of them. How many's left? 2 of them. And are they left on top or are they left on bottom? Top. And so my x squared stays on top, and that's all I do. Hopefully this is pretty familiar to you, but I just wanted to remind you. It stays on top because there's 4 on the bottom that I need to get rid of, and there's 2 left over on the top. Alright, so number 2. So you'd start with the 3 over 12 and reduce that. You can divide it. 12 does go into 3 4 times, but 3 over 12 doesn't give you 4. Okay? It gives you 1/4. Okay? So leave that part alone. And then let's look at the x's. We've got 2 x's on top. We've got 1 on the bottom. How many can we get rid of? 1. How many's left over? 1. And is it left on top or is it left on the bottom? Top. If you don't write the 1, that's okay. Look at number 3. Number 3 starts with 10 and 15. There's a negative, but don't let the negative bother you. That's okay. It can just stay. So we do 10 over 15. When that reduces, it's 2 over 3. And then you just put a negative. Alright, and then you do the a separately and the b separately. So on the a's, there's 3 on top, 1 on bottom. I can get rid of 1 of them, so there's 2 left on the top. Alright, look at the b's. There's 1 on top, 3 on the bottom. I can get rid of 1 of them, but the 2 that's left over are on the bottom. So the b squared's on the bottom. So it matters where it's left. If you just put the b squared on top, that's not going to work. Alright, let's skip on down to number 7. Looks more complicated just because there's a bunch of a's, b's, and c's. But let's figure it out here. So 16 and 20, I can divide by 4. So I think I get 4/5. Again, you could use, the calculators to reduce that for you if you need to. Let's look at the a's. We have 2 on top, 7 on the bottom. So there's 5 left on the bottom. The b's, there's 3 on top, 2 on the bottom. I can get rid of 2 of them, so I'm left with that b on the top. 4 c's on the top, 2 on the bottom, 2 left on the top. Good job. So if there's no numbers left on the top, you just leave the numbers there. Bring those x's or y's or whatever to the bottom, and then you can leave it. And it doesn't matter about the negative, whether you have it on the top or the bottom. So 16 over 12 does reduce to 4 over 3. You've got your y's, or your x's. There's 2 on top, 5 on the bottom, so there's 3 left over. Your y's, there's 4 left over on the top. And then there's z's. There's no z's on the top, so you just leave the z on the bottom, and that's it.